Hey guys, what's up? It's Lee here. Welcome to a new series, which is my Pokemon Emerald Randomizer Dicelocke. But this episode, basically, it's not an episode. This is the rules and instructions, basically, introduction kind of thing. So basically, there was another series. It was a Crazy Dice Nuzlocke that was done, but it was based only on Blaze Black 2 and Volt White 2, so I changed the rules a bit so you can play for any version of the game. So let's go over the rules now. The first rule is that if a Pokemon faints, it's dead, just like any other Nuzlocke. The second rule is that if you white out, you lose, basically another normal rule. Third rule is that you may only catch the first encounter on each route. Dupes claws and shinies claws, the only reason why those won't count is if you roll a certain number, which I'll explain later. The fourth rule is that you may use gift Pokemon, so say like I'm trying to remember, like the Eevee in Celadon City or something, or like the Shuckle in Cyanwood City, like stuff like that. You can use them as your first encounter in that area, in that city, so you can use gift Pokemon. The fifth rule is that you may not use legendary Pokemon. That includes like all legendaries, basically, like the ones that there's usually only one of each kind, you know, in the game, like even like the legendary trio dogs or the trio birds and stuff like that, the trio fairy thingies from generation 4. So you cannot use any of those. So the sixth rule is that the Entralink and Battle Subway are off limits. The seventh rule is that in case that none of the Pokemon that you have on your team that are alive can learn a certain HM needed to proceed in the game, a Pokemon may be caught separately to function as an HM slave, because you know, in some games it's necessary to have these or else you can't get anywhere, which sucks a lot. Another part of the rule is that this Pokemon may not partake in battles, only be used for its HM slaviness. The eighth rule is that when you enter a new area, excluding your hometown, you have to roll a die or use a random number generator, and it has to be between 1 and 20. So if you use a die, you'd have to use a d20, because then if you use like regular dice, then you would never be able to roll a 1 and you can't even get up to 20 technically. The number that corresponds with the result of the die has to be executed. So here's a list of basically all the different rolls and what you have to do if you roll those numbers. So if you roll a 1, you have to randomly determine a team member. This team member is now dead. Ignore this roll if the team only has 1 member, because if you have to kill off your only member, then you basically lose the game. So that's why it has that clause in it. Number 2 is that if you roll a 2, you randomly determine a team member. This team member will now be replaced with an equally random box member. The previous box member cannot leave the team unless rolled otherwise. So basically, say you roll a 2, you have I'm just thinking, a Pidgey, a Rattata, and a Squirtle. And so you basically use a random number generator, 1, 2, 3, randomly determine which one you have to put in the box, and then with the amount of box members you have that aren't dead, you put that into the random number generator, and whichever one that is, it's replaced, and you can't get rid of that member like you could normally do, like if you didn't want the person to remember, but because you rolled a 2, you have to keep that member until it dies. So that, yeah, also part of the rule is that it cannot leave the team unless it dies, and then the other member who is box can return to the team. And then this rule is ignored if there are no box Pokemon, because then again it's that thing that you're putting in but you can't really take out thing. So if you roll a 3, you randomly determine a team member. This team member cannot evolve ever, but also has to remain on the team until it dies. So this one means, like, say you have a Routes and you roll 3, and then you randomly, it gets determined to be Routes. It has to stay a Routes forever, it cannot evolve, and it has to stay on the team until it dies. Okay, so number 4, if you roll a 4, you randomly determine a team member. This team member is the only one that can be used in this area until either the member dies or all important events are done, like rival battles and, you know, storyline things. basically stuff like that. If you roll a 5, you randomly determine a team member. This team member is now dead. A dead Pokemon may be revived to take its place. Ignore if there are no dead team members, because then there wouldn't be anything to be able to replace it. So that's why you would ignore that roll if there are no dead members in the boxes. This is why it's important to not release your members, because you know it's always possible that you'll be able to bring it back. Okay, if you roll a 6, you sell 10 items here. If there are no shops here, you're lucky, because the reason why I put sell is that it's gonna come down the line where I'll tell you other ones, but basically because you're selling items, then if you buy them, like, you're losing money, so you have to make sure you take care of your money and not buy too much, you know, because it's not sold at the same price that you buy it at, so that's why. If you roll a 7, you sell 15 items here. Again, if there are no shops here, you're lucky. If you roll an 8, you sell 20 items here. If there are no shops, you're lucky. So basically those three kind of intertwine with each other. So if you roll a 9, you throw away 10 healing items, which means that you're throwing healing items which are important, you know, and then you can't sell them because you're not getting any money back, you're getting nothing back, so that kind of sucks there too. So if you roll a 10, you have to throw away all healing items you carry. That means like paralyzed heals, full heals, anything that heals, berries, things like that. You have to throw away all of them, and that sucks if you're kind of a person who stockpiles things and like buys a lot, you know, in case. So if you're like that and you roll a 10, you're screwed. Okay, if you roll an 11, you cannot catch anything here. That's what I mean about earlier when I said Dupes claws and shiny claws. If you roll an 11 and you find a shiny, you can't catch it because you rolled an 11 says you cannot catch anything here. So that's why I said sometimes the Dupes claws and the shiny claws does not go in effect. So if you roll a 12, you may catch the first 2 Pokemon you encounter. So instead of 1, you can catch the first 2 unique Pokemon you encounter. Then with 13, if you roll 13, then in this area, grass, double grass, cave, ground, and water are counted as different catch chances. So say you're in an area that has double grass, and has like a waterway, then you can basically catch 3 Pokemon. If there's like a bunch of things, you're lucky, you get to catch a lot of different ones. So if it's in the same route and it's just different types of areas to catch it, then those count if you roll a 13. So next one is if you roll a 14, you can choose what to catch here. So that's a cool one, that you basically can like look out to see what's in the area and catch what you want. Next thing, if you roll a 15, you can catch the first 4 Pokemon you encounter, but there's a drawback to this. You may not weaken them at all, you can only use status moves, no switching, you can only throw a Pokeball. So make sure if you roll 15 that if you want it a little bit easier, make sure you keep the Pokemon that has a status move in the front. So yeah, so you can only throw balls, you can only use status moves, no switching. So next one is if you roll 16, you re-roll your dice, or die, or use the random number generator. This one is because I wanted one that actually had a reroll, because then it brings on suspense more. You're like, I thought I could get away. None of these, I'm not gonna have one that says nothing happens, because that's boring. Rerolling your dice is more interesting than nothing happens. So that's what 16 is to reroll your dice, or die, or things like that. Then, for 17, is that you may not use healing items in this area, which is another important thing. So that's what that is. If you roll 18, you switch battle mode from either switch to set or from set to switch. This one is going to be a hard one, because a lot of people, it's hard to play set sometimes, but you know, basically you want an even number of 18s if you roll them, or because you don't want to be stuck on set. I actually am afraid of this one. I don't want to be stuck on set, but it might happen, and it's all about luck and all about chances and stuff like that. Okay, so the next one is if you roll a 19, you have activated star mode. In this area, your Pokemon cannot die, so no matter how many times, you know, things faint and stuff like that, then it's all good because your Pokemon can't die because it's star mode. This brings up a good point. A lot of things I've noticed, like in some games, when you try, like in, I think, was it 4th generation or 5th generation? Like starting from 4th generation, I think, where you would be with a partner and they would heal up your Pokemon, and people wondering if that counts as dying or if it counts as because they're healed right after. It doesn't mean they're alive. I take it, if they faint, they faint. That means they die, which means it doesn't matter if they're healed up right after, because technically there's a point in which they died, so then they're not usable. So in case anyone's wondering my take on that, so basically if you're with that girl in Eternal Forest and your Pokemon dies, it's dead. Doesn't matter if they heal it up. Okay. Then the last one is that if you roll a 20, you may revive a dead Pokemon, and you ignore this rule if no Pokemon are dead right now. And you cannot save this roll for later, so it's not like, oh, your first roll is a 20 and you have no dead Pokemon. You can't save that for later. Not even if a Pokemon dies in this very area right after, like later if you roll it. It has to be used right then and there. Of course, you would have to be able to go to the Pokemon Center because it'd be in the box. But you know, you have to use it right there. No like waiting for someone else to die. You have to go either straight to Pokemon Center or like choose not to use it. Point blank. Okay, so another side note thing is that hidden grottos, like in the 5th generation, count as separate areas. So, but not all the times are there going to be Pokemon. So it only happens you roll the dice or the number generator when you enter it the first time. And if there's no Pokemon in there, that kind of sucks. Tough luck. So basically, and for rolls, the roll of 17 about no using healing items in the area, and the roll of 19 which is activate star mode, and in this area your Pokemon cannot die, those happen every single time you enter that area. So even if you leave it and you come back, those things still apply. So basically, if you end up rolling a 19 on Victory Road, no matter how many times you go on Victory Road, your Pokemon won't die there. So that might be a good thing to roll then. But yeah, so especially if it's like a route where there's an important battle, might be a good thing to roll 19. But yeah, so I guess that's it. I hope you enjoyed this because I'm excited to start this series, and I know there's a lot of information. The information will also be down in the description bar below. And you know, thumbs up if you're excited because I'm excited for this series. And like I said, I changed these a lot so that any different version, or even if you wanted to play this on a hack, you could totally do that, because everything is like, it has meaning, but it's not too specific, in which it only works for a certain gen or a certain game. So I hope you enjoy this, and until next time, have a wonderful day.